welcome back to the Trusted Podcast. Guys, a fantastic guest here today, Paul Hogarth, founder of Tatton.
Over the last 42 years, Paul has been a serial entrepreneur. His businesses have helped shape the profession into what we know it as today.
Known most recently for his success at Tatton, Paul has also been instrumental in businesses like Paradigm, Bankhall, and Perspective.
In this episode, we're going to discuss the future of this profession and how Paul is investing heavily in its success.
Sit back, grab a cuppa, get ready for the content. Paul Hogarth, a very, very warm welcome to the Trusted Podcast.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, how are you? It's been a busy couple of weeks with the kind of the flagship annual event last week in London.
No, it's busy. It's a busy time with that. This is our biggest day of the year, that one. So I think we're in front of 700 people, which was fantastic. Takes your breath away a little bit when you stand up to present to those. But no, it went really well. And now we're in the throes of our numbers, so our full year's results are out tomorrow morning. So it's all busy. Busy period for you. I even showed my wife my diary at the weekend to let her see how busy. just to reinforce the fact she's not going to see very much of me for the next week or so.
Brilliant. But it's great to have you on, Paul. And we usually start with all of our guests who come on with just getting a bit of the backstory. Now, yourself, you've been in financial services for over 30 years, working with IFAs. You've obviously founder of Tatton, probably what you're most well known for now at the minute, but been involved with Bankhall, several other businesses as well. So it'd be great to understand how you got into the industry to start with.
Yeah, sure. It's actually, I'm now 65, so it's 41, 42 years now, which is incredible. And the time has flown, absolutely flown. And the old adage about it goes faster and faster is so true as well. But no, it's been really, really quick. And going back to the sort of the start, my dad actually worked for the Pru. So my dad, who's now 88 and in good nick, he was a prudential man. So literally started off as a Pru agent. Ran around the country, got promoted left, right and centre, and as a family we were uprooted every sort of 4 or 5 years as he got promotion. And then he retired actually at 58. So that was quite young, I think, really, to retire. But when I finished uni, which was up in Edinburgh, just sort of sat down with him and sort of talked about my career and what I should do. And he was very cautious individual. He's a Yorkshireman, so he's as tight as a ducks, etc. And he basically said, look, you need to go into something that's recession-proof. You've got to go into banking or insurance. I actually went into banking for about 6 months as a graduate trainee with the Bank of Scotland.
Yep.
Disaster. Absolute disaster. Square peg in a round hole kind of thing. So that didn't last. And then I got a job in insurance. So I went and joined Scottish Provident, which was based in Edinburgh, but it was only for a few months, my training basically, and then they were moving me down to Manchester. And that's what happened. I moved down to Manchester and still live in that area. So I don't move around very much. But no, it was good. Scott Prov was quite an amazing start to my career. Gosh, when I look back, I think I said to you guys before, it was like the Wild West when it came to compliance back in those days. And I just tell this story, which is absolutely true, about how I moved down to Manchester for this big job.
Yeah.
Met the boss, who was an incredible man, actually. He was ex-military, very, very smart, pinstripe suit, highly polished shoes, etc., etc. And he said, look, I just want you to follow the best consultant I have. He said, I've got a chap called Andrew. I'll leave it like that, I think. And he said, I just want you to go and meet Andrew. He's in the car park waiting for you at the moment. He's got your company car down there. go down with him, and if you can be a fraction of how good he is, I'll be over the moon with you, and it'll be magnificent. So went down, met Andrew, larger than life character. And he said, right. He said, where are your golf clubs? I said, well, I haven't got many golf clubs. I don't play golf. He said, you're from Scotland and you don't play golf. You're joking, aren't you? So he said, don't worry, I've got a spare set in the back of my car. Jump in my car. We'll go and do a couple of calls, and then we're going to hit the golf course in the afternoon. And I'm thinking, oh, this is unbelievable. What a way to start your career. And we drove up to Oldham, I think it was, and he walked into this IFA's practice. There was a pretty girl on reception. He gave her a kiss. He then went through to the IFA's office, went round to the back of his desk, put his feet up on the desk, started making some telephone calls, and I'm looking at him thinking, what's going on? And he said, this is probably a big shock to you and how this all operates. I said, yeah, I'm struggling to understand. He said, well, this is my IFA practice. I own this practice. And he said, and that's my girlfriend on the front desk. He said, and all the business that we write here, I all put through Scottish Provenance, so I get all the commission and all the credit. All the commission goes to my IFA practice, and he says, everybody's happy. And I'm thinking, wow, this is completely like the Wild West. Roll forward 6 months later, and the boss calls me into the office. He said, I don't want you shadowing Andrew anymore. He said, I'm going to take you away from that. He said, Andrew's no longer with the business. And I said, oh, you found out about the IFA practice then, boss? And he went, no. I didn't know anything about that. And the chap had been moonlighting in his company car and running it as a taxi. And the boss had seen him in this car at night and pulled him to task about that, and then found out everything else that he was up to. So that was the introduction to financial services. I was completely green as grass. But wow, what an entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing start.
Unbelievable. We had Brian McLaughlin on a few weeks ago, and he kind of manages the sales team at Octopus, and it was a similar story. He came down to Manchester as well. Yeah. And he said on a Thursday and Friday, he would rent out space in a bar, and IFAs would kind of come and go, and that's what it was. It's just a completely different game now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's changed a lot, hasn't it? But it's changed for the better.
Yeah.
And, a lot. I mean, it's much more professional now, and, I'm proud of that. I'm proud to see how it's changed over that period.
You've been a positive influence on it.
I've loved it. It's been amazing. I just still enjoy doing what I do every day of the week. It never feels like a Monday. I'm just waltz into work, and it doesn't even feel like work, to be honest. But no, it's been a wonderful industry. I've been blessed.
Yeah, and you touched on that point there about positive or maybe not so positive mentorship, depending on who you're shadowing at the time and where they are in their career. What impact has mentorship had on your journey, and how are you then passing that on to the generations below?
Yeah, I think you just need somebody to see a spark in somebody else, don't they? So I was really fortunate. So when the Scott Prov thing lasted a few years, and I wanted to go into the utilised investment world. Mm-hmm. So I flicked across to work for Vanbrugh Life, which was the investment arm of the Pru, the unit-linked arm, attracted by £10,000 basic salary and an Escort XR3i as a company car. So that's what floated my boat. So moved across into that. And literally one of the IFAs that I used to look after just basically saw something in me that he thought was backable, if you like. So he was the one who gave me my big chance. So he was my mentor. And he basically sort of decided to sell his practice, and what he did was transfer it to me. I left Vanbrugh Life and that's Bankhall, basically where Bankhall came from, and he sort of backed me to buy the business. He lent me £50,000 to get started, and bit by bit I bought the equity off him, and he went into retirement. But he was a massive influence on me. Yeah, just very clever the way he dealt with everything, and I was like a sponge. I was just soaking it all up. Yeah. So I think mentorship really, really works, and I try to do that now. I try to do that for others, and you're always learning, aren't you? I'm still learning now, and you never ever stop. But yeah, I think it's a big help.
Yeah, definitely.
We see it with Ryan. I mean, obviously, we've had the pleasure of speaking to Ryan.
I still call him young Ryan.
Yeah, young Ryan speaks very highly of you, and you can see the influence that you have. I mean, we've been really fortunate. Marcus and I worked together for a few years before joining Timeline, and you go through and you just take little bits from everyone, whether it's a colleague, somebody that you report to, or maybe even somebody that reports to you, and you're learning some of these aspects that maybe you've not been privy to in the years gone by. And I think it just starts to build you, and you almost that intuition to be able to spot what to do and what to avoid just helps you navigate those tricky waters a little bit more evenly.
No, it's true. You see little bits like Ryan's quite a special person, I think, because he's very good at reading the room and understanding who he's talking to and presses the right buttons. Because I've always thought on the sales side, you've got to leave your mark, haven't you? You've got to be remembered. You've got to leave something behind when you leave that room or that virtual room these days, and just have something where the chap or lady remembers you. You know, they pick up on something you said or the way you were, or a little bit of a spark. Ryan can do that. You know, and it's finding those individuals. Not everybody can do that, but you know, he's pretty special at that. And also, I've always believed you can't force people to be different. They've got to be very much themselves, and you know, there needs some sort of key qualities that actually get them out of bed and get them motivated. So you need drive, you need confidence, but not arrogance. You know, you've got to have a story, you've got to leave something behind. And it's great to see somebody like Ryan come through. And we've got others, you know, we've got lots of youngsters within the business. And homegrown's always better, isn't it? If you can do it that way. Cheaper as well.
Yeah, because you've got to find somebody who fits the Tatton way, as well as having those attributes on top of that. And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about what that means to you, because I'm sure you've seen salespeople come and go through your entire journey in your career, and I'm sure you've seen the best and worst of all of that.
Yeah. I like a salesman who's hungry. So I always laugh about, you know, you've got to have somebody who maybe wants to try and emulate what you've done. So, you know, whether your success, whether it's a nice car or a nice house or a nice watch, whatever it might be, you need people who are hungry. I like a couple of divorces or something, and a big mortgage or whatever. It really, really helps. I joke about that, but it is. You want somebody who actually has got that drive and wants to get out of bed and also wants to make a difference.
Definitely. And touching on that as well, obviously we've had Justine and Ryan on, and they've both said you're not one to kind of sit in the ivory tower, that even to this day, yourself, you still get involved with a lot of the boots on the ground sales stuff and kind of traveling and seeing IFAs.
Yeah, I enjoy that. So it's not a difficult thing for me to do. I'm a people's person. I like to be around. I probably struggle more with virtual than most because I like to get face to face.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it really sets you apart. You know, I think a lot of CEOs or chairs or whatever will just sit in their ivory towers and just expect it all to happen.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that you get your hands dirty, you get out there, you learn an awful lot by being around and about. You know, it's, you know, you're just talking to people about what's keeping them awake at night. And if you look at the Tatton business, that's exactly where it came from. It came from just us talking to IFAs and just saying, what are you worried about? You like wrap platforms, yeah, but I'm worried about all the choice I have there and how I'm going to manage the assets. And you know, that's where Tatton basically came from. It came from us listening to the fact that the IFAs thought that the investment industry hadn't really understood exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And even got down to the price and, you know, and what kind of service they wanted from us. So, yeah, I don't think you can beat getting out there. I mean, like last week, 700 people. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And we do a lot with the distribution businesses. Yeah. You know, it's good that we can all work together. I mean, like today, you know, it's nothing that there's no reason why you can't all work together to actually create opportunities for us both along the way. In the past, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be invited to offer my services to Fintel members or to Sesame Bankhall or 360 or whatever. And now the barriers are down. And it's wonderful, much better.
Yeah, that listening's really important, as you said, because a lot of the time when you're out doing sales, it's the most important part. They'll tell you what they need. I think a lot of salespeople kind of go in and will just kind of sell and talk at them, but
you're better off having solutions, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are better, rather than just pitching.
Yeah,
you are better at helping them actually live a better life and have a better way of running their business. I think that's really why we are where we are today. It's going out and saying, actually, it doesn't need to be this way. You can live life in a better way. You can be more resourceful within your business. You can outsource a lot of the stuff that you think is important.
Yeah.
The biggest thing with an MPS proposition is somebody actually saying, I'm not going to do it themselves anymore. And they worry about the fact that could affect their fee, but it doesn't. It shouldn't in any shape or form.
If anything, it makes your business more competitive because you've got so much time to spend with your clients. We know that so many people are wanting to do that and don't have the time to do it.
Well, I read this morning about AI, and how important that's going to be to the IFA businesses, and I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's going to just save so much time and effort in what isn't a great way for them to actually spend their time. And getting to see more clients.
And without revealing any secrets ahead of time with the announcement on the figures and the growth tomorrow, I mean, it's no secret that Tatton has done phenomenally well. There's been a real sales push. I mean, Justine's absolutely excellent. She's built a brilliant team. What kind of attributes do you think that team has universally that continues to drive that success forward, other than the bits that we've already talked about with respect to kind of the empathy of problems and finding solutions for it? Are there any key elements that you see in particular?
Yeah, I think there's sort of 3 or 4 key elements. I think culture is massive. We start off life as a IFA support services provider. So, I've always had this old adage, if an IFA comes on the phone and wants us to jump, we go back and say, oh, how high? It's not a question of, no, I'm not going to jump or anything like that. So, we start off with a massive sort of culture towards service. I think service is so vital. Obviously price, performance, big key people.
It's become commoditized, hasn't it, the space? So the services.
You've got to keep that service proposition. You've got to be there. And I think a lot of this ticketing and remote kind of situation, I don't think IFAs really, really enjoy. I still think they want to feel that there's somebody they can easily get in contact with and somebody who will do what they want them to do. They might not do it themselves, but they'll find the way to do it and then get it to them as soon as possible.
Yeah, especially with AI as well. I mean, we spoke about, Jack Bennett put a really good post on LinkedIn about a car conference that was entirely AI generated, and it was interviews and all that kind of stuff. And I asked him the question about, is face-to-face going to become more popular because people distrust the AI world and they don't know if they're speaking to a real person or not. So I think you're right on the service piece. Being present, being available is so important, especially as technology gets better.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Jack could always get a job selling cars. I'm sure he's massive into his cars. Well, he's another young success story within our business, which is great. He'd be in the top 10 wage earners or remuneration packages that we have. So, proper player within the organisation. But yeah, I mean, the AI piece is going to be absolutely huge. I think tech and all that resolution and solutions it can bring could be absolutely fantastic for the industry. So I think, culture, very important, service important, getting yourselves out and about, very important, but you guys know that. It's not really rocket science, is it? It's just, I think there's an understanding that IFAs want to be heard and should be heard, and I don't think necessarily the right people were listening back in the day, but they certainly are now.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, as you say, but I think a lot of it is consistency. We see people who move businesses very regularly, and I think that can, regardless of what an employer might think of that, because there's different sides to everybody's individual story, but the consistency of going through tough times, but doing it time after time after time. I signed up a firm very recently that I'd been speaking to for 6 years. And originally they said to me, we will never use a model portfolio service, ever. And you stay, and the time changes and problems arise, inefficiency builds as that business grows. And so if you're right, if you keep those metrics the same, good culture, availability, but you do it consistently, people go through full cycle. It may just be a no for now, and then you reconnect when the world changes. Someone only has to retire.
Yeah, I mean, being told no is never a great thing, is it? Nobody enjoys being told no, but you've got to keep going back and back and back. And you've got people that we've spoken to 2, 3, 4 years ago who are just finally coming around to the fact that they need to do something about it, and that's fine. But every door in sales should be a revolving door, shouldn't it? You should be able to go back again and then again and again. Some of Jack's cases that he's got recently would be ones that he spoke 2 years ago, and same with Ryan and the other team. It just takes a bit of time. But I suppose that's also showing the fact that you're there and you're there for the long term, and it's not just a short term fix. Isn't quite an important piece.
Yeah. Just going back to the culture bit, what type of culture are you trying to build at Tatton, and how do you manage that now at scale when you've got, I don't know, how many staff are you now, Paul? Like you've got there?
On the Tatton side, we're still less than 60. I think we're 57, 58. Yeah. So it isn't that hard really to get that culture, because you're still an extended family.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody by their first names.
Yeah. We're
very open. I've always said to anybody, forget line management. If you want to chat to me, come and talk to me.
Yeah. So
always wide open. So if there's anything anybody wants to have a natter about, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
I respect, management levels and that kind of thing, but I always think, you've got to be accessible. You've got to be available for everybody, regardless. So yeah, I don't think that's really an issue.
Yeah. Interesting. I suppose that kind of flat management structure and that accessibility is really important, because again, it just means that you've got an open door policy and people can air grievances as much as they can give you feedback as well.
You can attract really good talent as well, can't you? We've taken some people out of major institutions and they can't get over the difference.
Yeah.
So I talk about taking somebody out of the corporate dome and bringing them into what I call the real world, where we'll all get stuck in, and we'll literally, whatever job needs to be done, we'll be there to do it. I mean, a classic thing was the conference last week. I had all sorts of people putting stuff on tables and things, and I think that's great. You just get stuck in and do what you do. But
everyone mucks in, and that kind of binds people together in a way.
Listen, it's a lot easier having your culture when the business is gaining and got momentum and growing and growing and growing. It's not so easy if it's contracting. Fortunately, most of my businesses I've been involved have grown, and it's a good place to be. So not only do you have a small team, but you can actually, there's no place to hide either. You kind of, there's always people who think, I can sound good, I can look good, but really I'm not going to go that deep. Well, you can't really do that in a smaller institution, can you? You get found out.
No, it was a big driver for me and Will. I think when we moved across, previous business was fantastic, but when it gets to a certain size, corporateness starts creaking when in excess of 1,000 staff, and it's very difficult, isn't it, to have your kind of identity there and get involved with different stuff.
You've got to fight back a little bit, haven't you? Because you can let things just get too committee based. I did have a period in my life when it was like that, when we sold the Bankhall business to Scandia, and we became an entrepreneurial business that was then forced into an institutional basis, and it was like death by 1,000 cuts, because it was just, they just sucked out all of the positive energy that we had, and it just turned into having committee meetings about how many bikes we're going to have in the bike rack and where the bike rack was going to be, and then another meeting about whether we should have another meeting or not. And it just gets to the point where you think this is crazy.
How do you combat that? Because again, it's easier said than done. Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
No, seriously, I probably, one of my mistakes is I probably stuck around too long, kind of wasted a bit too much time there, because you could see the pattern, and listen, big institutions have their own crosses to bear, but it just got to the point where I just couldn't see that there was any future for me, and there must be loads and loads of people like that, who are desperate to get a fresh start. And I think that's wonderful. We can just release and get people out of those areas and get them into a smaller organisation that is growing, and that's going to be a good test for us moving forward. But as long as I'm around, I'll make sure that we really do serve as well as remain competitive.
I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why we started Trusted, was that. So there's loads of people. It doesn't just happen to be salespeople. It can be marketing. It can be product. It can be devs. So all of these different people from across these businesses, that unless you have good connections from within that industry yourself, sometimes it can be very isolated, especially on the sales side when you're field based and you feel like your problems are unique to you, and you don't necessarily have the opportunity to hear from other people who have gone through the same circumstances or similar and overcome it. And so we try to foster this idea of being able to share ideas, share experience in favour of collaboration. But we feel like we've only scratched the surface. What more can we do as an industry, especially on the sales side, to improve collaboration?
Well, I think we are starting to do that, aren't we? I mean, things like today. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do this a year ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. I think it's incredible that we're both sitting in front of each other doing this, bearing our souls and stuff like that. But no, I think the big thing really, I think, is just communication. That's got to be the single biggest piece. And if you communicate within the organisation and you allow freedom for everybody to communicate, then that's going to be the best way. So I think we're going to see more of, the kids call it collabs, don't they? There's going to be more collabs moving forward. And we're also seeing some of the institutions start to come around to that. We've got some interesting calls and conversations with some of the big companies that are saying, actually, we're kind of struggling on the marketing side. We're not really getting to where we need to get to. What about a collab with you to see what we can do? And again, I think that's quite refreshing. Yeah. So, I mean, I think single biggest thing is the more and more communication. People should jump on the platforms that are available, like your Trusted platform, to learn more and sort of be free to communicate and do what they can.
Yeah, definitely. And Paul, you mentioned before, you touched on kind of mistakes that you'd made sticking around at a business for too long. What other examples you've got, and what else may our kind of viewers, listeners benefit from? What they can learn from?
Probably stuck with some people longer than I should have done as well. I think when you don't get every hire right, do you, or every position right? I've been, again, fortunate that most of the positions that we've allocated or given have worked out well, but there's been a few that, I kind of probably should have shut down sooner than I did. So that would be a mistake. Definitely a mistake hanging on to the Bankhall piece for longer than I should have done. I should have realised and got out quicker. Time's so important, isn't it? And you really got to make sure you do and make the most of your time. But yes, I think more than anything, it will be the wrong people choice. But then I have had the benefit of making some really good choices as well, which have benefited us. Relationships within the business are so important.
Yep.
You can't be everything. I've got some terrible weaknesses. I won't go into that. But I've got some terrible weaknesses and I've got some good strengths. But then lots of other people within the business have got a similar sort of thing, and it's working out. What you are good at and where you can make a difference, and not trying to meddle in things that you can't make a difference. For example, because you're going to come back to me and say, what's going on? So I think we've got a perfect situation really with the way we manage the Tatton business, because I do not get involved in the investment management piece at all.
Yeah.
So I've made it my position that it's not me, and I shouldn't influence or be part of that investment piece. When it comes to strategy and vision of where we take the group, that's probably more me. So the entrepreneur would then come out, and then I'd have a little bit more idea about where we're going to take the commerciality and the vision of the business and the strategic play.
Yeah.
So keep me out of things that I definitely won't make a difference in, and should leave to the professionals, and get me involved in something else. And I think that's the same with people like Ryan and Jack and Justine and everything. We know we all know where we're good, but we also know that we can't really add right the way across the piece. Yeah, and then your jigsaw comes together from there.
Definitely. You mentioned people there, and kind of sticking with people for too long. When do you know you've come to the end of the road with someone? Is that just because they don't fit into the culture? Because you have a great salesperson who just doesn't buy into the culture, can't you? What are the kind of indicators that you're looking for there?
I wouldn't say it's so much the culture, because the culture is so there that it'd be very difficult for somebody not to know that's what we're all about. I think it's more the point of whether that person has got the drive that is required. You mentioned about it being lonely, being a salesperson, and I think it can be, can't it? You can spend a lot of time in cars, in transit, still doing a lot of stuff from home and stuff. So you are literally on your own quite a bit. So you need somebody who is a self-starter, has got that drive that we talked about earlier, and does want to make a difference. If you can't see those qualities in a person, and you can't see that shining through, you're actually doing a disservice by not doing something about it, because that person's not in the right place. Yeah. And they're probably struggling with the fact that they're not in the right place. Yeah. So I think you've got to be brutal. Sometimes you've got to be, and I'm not afraid of that. So some people say they're scared of me, but I don't think they really are. I think they're probably just, aware that I'm probably more on it than some people would be. So I can see when people aren't performing or if they're in the wrong place. Yeah. And listen, you're not going to get everything right, are you? You'll never have a perfect team where everybody is doing the best they possibly can and you're all rowing in the same direction, and it's as close to 100% as possible. You have to put up with the fact you're never going to get perfection. Yeah. But you should, and I think it's the right thing to address with the individual and say, look, I don't think this is really working out between us, and maybe you should be looking at something else. I don't think that's over harsh, because I think it's actually probably doing that person a favour in the long run. Yeah, got to be cruel to be kind.
You have. Me and Will say this all the time. It's really interesting, field sales. We fundamentally see it as being self-employed, and that this region is that's my business. I look after the Northwest or wherever that is. But ultimately, everything falls on my head. You do need to be a self-starter.
Absolutely, and I think it's right. You are running your own fiefdom, aren't you? And nobody's going to do it for you. So if the Northwest doesn't perform, we know where to look, don't we? But our guys jump around postcodes like crazy, but that's another thing. But I think you do know your own book and you know where you are. I think league tables are quite good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see any harm in not having league tables.
There's a competitive edge to it.
Yeah. I think it's nice for somebody. You wouldn't want the same person to be number one all the time. You want to see a little bit of pain, so they flick back. I'm all for that. But I do think it is really down to the individual.
How have you managed the postcode stuff as well, like you touched on there, Paul? Because we know across the industry you may have a patch, certain postcodes, but we know from Tatton as well that multiple people can work across. How does that work from keeping morale up on the sales team and not getting people kind of angry, he's taking my firms?
So my response to that would be, well, you weren't there. Yeah. So if somebody has jumped around into another postcode or got a relationship with somebody through attending whatever, and then we've got a chance to do business with that person, and the other person who was looking after that patch hadn't got that, well, that's just tough, isn't it? You know, I'd just turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, got to put the company first.
Yeah.
If you've not done that, then you don't deserve to have that a piece of business or that connection. So yeah, we do jump around a little bit on postcodes, more than a little bit probably. But I think the postcode thing is not a bad little position to get to what you said before about having your fiefdom.
Yeah.
But then again, if it's not being worked, I think it's free for everybody to have a go at.
Well, if you're leaving stuff on the table, and we always talk about this idea that, you know, Tatton have done incredibly well, and Timeline might be the flavour of the month, or someone else comes in and the new entrant and all that kind of stuff, that you've only got your time in the sun for a finite amount of time, whether it's 10, 20, 30 years, that might be great, but you can't rest on your laurels. And as soon as you leave opportunities on the table through inactivity, mismanagement, disorganisation, all of those kind of bits, and you do have those people who are hungry and have the capacity to take it on, then I can see why that lends itself to success, because you're not, you know, you're not wasting time on the pedantic aspect, politics.
Yeah, it's politics. Yeah, it's politics, isn't it?
You're getting on with it, doing the job instead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a salesman. I started life off as a salesman. I think sales is so important for an organisation. I do think some people have sat in their offices and thought, we're fund managers and we deserve to, you know, we're a better class of person than a salesperson. You know, we're academic, we're super bright, and maybe look down the noses a little bit at a salesperson. I will never ever have that in any organisation I'm involved in, because we both need each other. Yeah. You know, you could be a really good fund manager, but if you've got no assets to manage, then you're kind of up against it, aren't you? So I think, you know, sales is such an important part of what we do, and marketing. And yeah, I think, you know, it's got to be, you've got to want it, you've got to go and get it. And if you're not going to get it, then somebody else will take it from your patch. And all credit to them.
When you're looking at promoting salespeople, again, because we always find that the best salespeople aren't always the best sales managers.
Yeah.
How are you differentiating the two, and what characteristics do you need above and beyond being able to manage your patch successfully to go on and do that?
So I would say a salesman's quite selfish. My wife would definitely say I'm selfish, but I literally, you're a self-centered operation on. You go back to your point about, this is my fiefdom, this is my area, and I'm going to look after this, and this is going to be my profit center. Going to make you selfish. I'm going to make you think about everything that you want, and you're not really going to be considered. You're not going to consider others. You're not going to help necessarily a weaker member of the team, because you just think that's their job to look after themselves. You're not there to look after it. That's a salesman. That's not a sales manager. And that person will probably never become a sales manager. I think you need a certain skill set to be able to sell and be able to run your own book if you had to, but being able to support others along the way. Justine is a great version of that, because she literally assists all of her BDMs and will really help them knock big cases over. And I suppose I still do that. You know, occasionally the guys will come and say, could really do with you coming up to Glasgow or coming here with me, because I'm just on the cusp, and you can just come and finish it off for me or something like that. So I'll occasionally get rolled out. Justine will get rolled out.
Yep.
That's where kind of a sales manager comes in. That's the sort of person that could become a sales manager, who isn't quite as selfish as a salesman would be, or somebody who's maturing to move on from there. Not many really good salesmen make it into sales management. It's like footballers becoming football managers, and not a lot of them are successful. And you mentioned about being the number one. If you're the number one, everybody wants to be the number one, don't they? So everybody's coming at you all the time. You know, I'm a Man United fan, so I've seen it throughout the years, and we're certainly not number one anymore.
Not so much at the minute.
Not so much at the minute, but yeah, no, it's a challenge.
Yeah,
but you can't rest on your laurels. That's exactly the words I use. You know, we've always got to be thinking how we can keep evolving to stay front and center in everybody's minds, and they don't think about leaving us to go somewhere else.
Yeah, Justine said that. That interesting when we interviewed her. That in some instances, people below her, Ryan and so on, have earned more than her in a year because the sales have been that good. And if you had someone who was really selfish there, that just wouldn't have happened, would it? But she's allowed the team to prosper and grow and
so
play to their advantages.
We have an uncapped, uncapped bonus system. And I would love to see. I'd love to see the first 5 slots in the company be down to the sales team.
Yeah,
I really would. That means we're really kicking it. Yeah.
You touched on AI before, Paul. What other trends are you seeing in the industry at the minute, and what excites you about the future as well with what's going on?
So I've watched the IFA community for such a long time and been part of it. And we've always had this thing about the average age is 56, the average age is 57, the average age is 58. I think the average age is 59 now. And everybody's been thinking, and of course you're going in front of people and there's a lot of grey hair and there's a lot of baldness out there, and you're thinking, where is this all going? We've got consolidation, which is absolutely rife.
Yeah.
And you've seen businesses being consolidated all the time. And I think that's been going on really heavily over the last 4 or 5 years. But obviously it's been in existence for longer. But the last 4 or 5 years, it's really accelerated. And I've been saying for some time that actually I can see that there's still businesses where the father or the mother is now bringing through the sons and daughters to become IFAs and actually then do that intergenerational piece on the business rather than just on the clients. Yeah. And I've seen that creep in more and more and more. And I was really, really pleased to hear the LEK consulting guys were out the other day, Bronzeway, and I was at a dinner where he presented, and they've done some wonderful stats. And basically, there's something like 10,300 IFA businesses, aren't there, in the country?
Yeah.
And they did all the deregistrations over the last 4 years from 2019 to 2023. And there were 570 firms that had been deregistered out of the 10,300. So we'd dip underneath the 10,000 for the first time. But there were 470 new firms that were registered over that period as well. So we actually only dropped 100.
Yep.
But the best thing was the average age of those people being consolidated was 57, 58. The average age of those new people coming in dropped to 46.
Yeah.
So you're actually seeing new blood coming through, probably because of bad consolidation.
Yeah.
Where the individuals have been sitting there, their principals have gone, their book has been transferred to this new co.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking after that book and they're thinking, actually, I'm not really enjoying this.
Yeah.
Kind of death by a thousand cuts back round to where I was, and thinking, actually, let's get out of there and let's create our own firm. Now, I think there's a great opportunity there.
Yeah.
And you'll see more and more firms grow. Bronzeway then went on and said, look, if we get to 2032, which is obviously stretching another 7 years, I still believe, even with all the consolidation that we're going to see, because you're going to have consolidation for the next 15 years, you'll still have over 9,000 firms out there.
Yeah.
And the average age will keep coming down. So I'm enthused about the fact that the IFA community, and I have been banging on about this for years, saying you've never had it so good. That it's in rude health and has continued to be in rude health, but it will continue again.
Yeah. And
it will get bigger and stronger, and it's got very little competition. So if you want a career for your son and daughter, I can't think of a much better place than being an IFA.
No.
Unless you want to be in private equity or you want to be an investment banker or whatever. But, I genuinely think it's a great, great place for people to be. So my enthusiasm for the sector is stronger than it's ever been. And I don't mind consolidation. I think consolidation is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it says to the firm, look, you are building something up of value, and it's not going down. Just look how much prices have moved over the period. Build your business, and then you've got a choice of either bringing your sons and daughters or other youngsters in to look after you in your twilight, or you can sell it.
Yeah.
So you've got the best of both worlds. So I think if we look at AI and what that can do for that explosion that's expected around production of IFA businesses, the fact that you can do so much more on the virtual side, and you've got that lovely chance to bring more and more people through at a time when the IFA's got zero competition. You've either got DIY, which is a very select type of person, or you've got what? You've got nothing else. It's got to be the IFA, hasn't it? So, yeah, I'm massively enthused by that.
Fantastic. Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've got one final question for you.
Is this the tricky one?
No, yeah, we've saved our best till last. No, we just want you to leave our audience with one final piece of advice, and we just want you to be able to share your wisdom with our audience. And so for a group of salespeople who will be watching this sitting at the other end of the camera, what piece of advice would you leave them with?
Oh, gosh. I think the big thing for me is your energy levels and, what you can achieve. I have days when you come home and you think, what have I achieved today? I always put myself into that. Have I actually had a good day? Have I done what I set out to do? Have I done a bit more than that? Have I solved a problem? Have I resolved an issue or whatever it might be? I'm far happier at night when I know I've had a good day. If I've had a rubbish day, or I haven't really pushed myself, or I haven't used the energy that I should have, I come away feeling a bit sort of empty. And I would just say that we've all got different sort of skill sets, but we all can bring energy into a lovely industry. And I do believe that this industry will repay you so many times more than the effort that you put in. And if you're ever feeling sorry for yourself, it's probably because you haven't put it in. I think, I've never known a position where if you work hard, you will be rewarded, and you can get that here in financial services.
Brilliant. Paul, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been
Pleasure.
It's been great to have you.
Yeah, no, it's been good fun. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Good stuff.